Alison Maloni, welcome back to the Sales Podcast. Congratulations on your new book, Breaking in the News, Build Buzz for Your Brand. I'm good. I'm glad you came back. It's been almost a year, 10 months. I looked it up. You're on episode 420, and you have been breaking in the news, haven't you?
I've been trying to. Yeah, so I've kind of built my brand a little bit more since I was last on your podcast. It was during COVID. We were on lockdown. I think I was hiding in my bedroom from the kids because they were at home trying to do their remote learning. Oh my gosh, it feels like, years ago. Yeah, so I've been filling in for the news at Newsmax now for a couple of years, but I've gotten more gigs, as you call it in the business there. One of the anchors went on maternity leave, so I filled in for her for a couple of months. And during the last few months, I decided I'm going to write this book, and here we are.
Gotta love it. So how did you get your start? I mean, jumping into being on air. I mean, that's you weren't just plucked out of the wild, right? So, what was your background? How did you even tee that up to be in a position?
So I went to school for journalism and I got a job at a small station. That's what you have to do in the world of TV. You start in a very small market. I was the assignment editor, which meant I directed where the stories went. I answered the phones. I listened to police scanners and made probably $6 an hour at that point, and then became a producer. And you kind of just have to get your feet wet. You have to get all this experience of doing all this work, a lot of it you don't want to do, but it does make you a better journalist. And then I got my first gig in Poughkeepsie, New York. I was a reporter, a photographer, an editor. I did everything. And then came back to Springfield, got a job as a reporter, went to Providence and did that for a few years, and then I decided this is a really difficult business. I was working Christmas and holidays and nights and weekends. So I said, I'm out. I'm done. I'm going to get out of this business. And then went into the real world, as us in TV call it, and went into corporate and did marketing. And then I started my own PR company about 8 years. But part of the process of owning a company and trying to build your brand is to put content out, which I was very hesitant about doing. But my friend who had a marketing firm said, you got to do this. You got to write blogs. You have to do videos. So I started doing that. And then I started getting in the media as an expert. They would quote me as a public relations expert. We talk about crisis communications, branding. And then from there, I was pitching my clients and happened to pitch myself to a show on Newsmax and said, hey, if you ever need anybody to talk about, any sort of things that happen in the world regarding PR, marketing, I can come on and talk about it. And they asked me to come on. I think it was when Jeff Bezos got divorced or announced his divorce. And I went on, and from then on, they started having me on more and more. And then I launched a couple of shows for Newsmax, and they kept calling me back. But I started off small, and so I got out of the business, but now I'm back in. But it's different because I necessarily can say, yes, I can do this show, or, oh, I can come on, but no, I can't because I have clients or I have the kids. So it's the best of both worlds.
Are they in your town, or do you have to commute up there?
I commute to New York, so it's about a 3 hour commute. If I like were to zoom in or Skype in for a segment, I can do it from my home. But if I have to go
Sure.
anchor,
Right.
then I go there. I mean, during COVID, we were anchoring from our living rooms, but everyone was.
Yep. 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 So, what would you recommend to people about politics, right? Because Newsmax, I mean, is it safe to say they're right leaning? Is that
Yes.
fair, right? And
Yeah.
so, if
That's
some
very
people say, oh, money, sex, religion, politics, you don't discuss that. It makes company, blah blah blah. So, but you're on a conservative channel,
fair.
and you have your own business and that business persona. Do you have people saying, "Oh, I'm not going to work with you because you're a right-leaning anchor"? I mean, are you getting that? And
I haven't gotten that, but I do, and I've had people who actually they go on TV and they're left leaning and they've been asking for my help because they want to get more TV gigs, which is great because you have to put politics aside when it comes to like pitching and doing your job. So I haven't had anyone But then again, I don't know. People may have, looked at my agency and researched me and been like, oh, forget it, which is really sad because I have, I think that you do need to put politics aside. And for me, as an anchor or as a journalist, I'm asking questions. I'm not necessarily taking sides. There's a difference between commentators, like the Tucker Carlsons and Sean Hannity's, and the journalists. But I know that it kind of gets blurred sometimes. But, and I always tell my clients too, look, it's up to you. If you want to put your political views out there, then you know that you may lose clients, but you may gain clients. So it's such a different world we live in now compared to even just a couple of years ago when it comes to politics.
Yeah. Well, and it's the old adage, choose who to lose, right? Maybe
Mhm.
those people just aren't reaching out to you, and that's fine. Those that do call, it's an easy conversation because they view the world the same way you do. So it should be a pleasant working experience, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And all my clients are great. And again, we have some clients that are left leaning, and that's fine. And we get them press. So it's just not and even, you think of the conservative stations, they want to have people who think differently because it's a great panel, it's a great discussion, and you can agree
Right.
to disagree, which is the mature thing to do, is what most of us should be doing.
Did you say mature? Okay,
Yes.
I'm gonna have to end this conversation. Maybe when I'm 52, I'll be mature. So how impactful is PR today? I mean, we've got a bazillion channels, right? 57 channels and nothing's on. People are tired of mainstream media and, oh, I'm not going to watch Fox News. I'm not going to watch MSNBC. I'm just going to stream Netflix. I'm going to follow my thought leaders on Instagram. Does PR still work?
It does. And I think it works in a different way. Before, people would say, I saw you on the news, or I saw this. Like you said, I mean, we're getting our news on our phone, right? I'm scrolling through, I'm getting my news on Twitter. I'm not actually watching the channel. I mean, I do because this is the industry I'm in, but most people aren't sitting there all day watching the news. So,
I've been
that
hanging out with some of
sounds,
the guys. I'm like, turn that stuff off, dude.
I
It's
know.
rotting your brain.
Well, yeah, I do. On the weekends, I'm like, I'm off the grid. I'm gonna take a day because you live and breathe it, and it's depressing. It's just, if you watch it, and like for me, I'm in it and I'm interviewing, I'm like, oh my God, like the world's gonna end. I can't handle this.
Yeah.
So the way PR works now is that because we can use social media as our platforms, and we can put out that, hey, I was on MSNBC, or I was quoted in Entrepreneur Magazine. When people or customers or potential clients are looking to work with you, they see that you're in the media. They may not even watch the episode or segment, but they see, and that's the perception. Well, they must be smart. They're quoted here, or they contributed to this article. So it's more about being able to kind of like a show and tell, like, look where I am, or look at these articles. It doesn't necessarily mean people are actually watching you. So it's just another like notch in your resume. It's to when you're, going against a competitor and they are not in the news and they haven't written any articles and you have, it just adds a little bit more to you.
So does it apply like across the board? Like is the local plumbing contractor going to benefit because he has been picked up by maybe the local, KTLA in LA versus
Yeah.
the other guy that hasn't?
Absolutely, because again, like, the local plumber doesn't want to be on Fox because that, his clients aren't, in Minnesota, they're in, Texas where he is. So it does help again because people will see, because we all, we do our research, or we should. If we're hiring a plumber, or we're hiring, somebody to do something, we look at reviews, we look at, we do look at their website, or there's actually more people go to social media than websites now, but they're looking at all these things. So if this plumber has been on the local news and giving tips, or they're interviewing about, like, whatever, how your pipes can freeze in the winter, people will see that and they're going to say, okay, well, this person knows what they're talking about. I'm gonna check them out. So it does help, more so local too than national.
Is there a trick? Is it just consistency? Do I just pay someone like you and are you going to get me on local or are you going to help me national?
Well, we help both. So we have clients that just want local news. Like we have a personal trainer, and so she has a gym. Nobody is going to come from Florida to her gym. So we focus just locally for her. And we were able to get her on. She goes on a weekly segment now on the ABC and Fox affiliate, and she does a weekly segment. So she's promoting it, and now pretty much like we don't really have to do anything because she's on. If you're small and you can do it yourself, and there's ways to do it yourself, you can pitch yourself to different topics, as far as, like, for example, say you're a chef. There's a lot of things that you can do to pitch to your local news, because you have those morning shows or those mid-morning shows that you always see. They have chefs come on, and think about what's timely, right? We're getting to the holidays soon, so they can pitch doing, untraditional Thanksgiving dinner, or some whatever's trending, in the summertime, how to, cook with local ingredients. Those types of things that they can think about, that they can pitch to the media to come on and do a segment. You just have to get creative, and you can actually just look and see, like, just Google, different ideas for people in your industry and what they're on the news for. If you're an accountant, you can always obviously pitch the local news around tax time prior to it. Anytime there's new tax laws or things that happen, you can pitch the local media and say, hey, I don't know if you saw this, but this new tax law is taking into effect for our state. I can talk about how this is going to affect business owners, or how this is going to affect, your viewers. So local news likes to localize national stories. We had COVID, right? How many local TV stations were talking to local doctors, pediatricians, all of these men and women, nurses? So when there's something that you can talk about on a local level, just reach out to the news, and just a couple of lines. You don't have to do like this massive pitch. Just, hey, so and so, I am a local plumber and this just happened. I'm available to talk about these 3 things. I'm available. Here's my cell. Here's my email. Very simple. Keep it short and simple.
And will a local station take a risk, on an unknown? I've been interviewed a few times, spoken a lot. When that red light goes on, a lot of people freeze.
Yeah, they do.
So is this a high risk opportunity, for the station? Do they want to see you've been somewhere else? Or will they go, yeah, let's run with it, and if they're a dud, we'll just make it up with our own talent?
Yeah, I mean, for local news, I think they're more willing to take a chance. They will Google you. So if you're pitching yourself, they are going to be like, all right, who is this person? We want to make sure they're legit, like, what's their business, types of things. So they will Google you just to make sure that you are who you are. But fortunately for local, it's not live. Most of the time it's not live, unless you go in studio, like for that chef we were talking about. That chef's going to go and they're going to do a live. But for the most part, and the local news crews they're so nice. If they notice you're nervous, they're going to be like, all right, let's take a break, let's pause. I'm going to ask you about this. Look at me, don't look at the camera, and they let them breathe. So editing can be a great thing. And again, and they'll normally, most reporters will talk to you before the camera starts rolling and say, okay, these are the topics I'm going to talk to you about. Is there anything else that you would like to get across, or that we missed? And so it's very casual. If you are pitching yourself, though, you should practice. You should practice in front of the mirror. You should practice anytime you can, just to make sure that you're not saying ums, and that you're not getting nervous, and those types of things. But editing is great. But local, they take a chance on you. And if you don't do a good interview, they're probably not going to call you back. But if you do a great interview, now they know, okay, I had this realtor who talked to me and they were awesome because we needed them within an hour and they made it happen. So you are going to be in their mind. So the next time there's a story, they're going to call you.
A friend of mine got me on KTLA out here, I don't know, a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now, I guess. And she worked me over with preparation. Oh my, it was like basic training. It was brutal. It was good. I learned a lot because, it had to be so tight, but I was in the studio, but it was on, they tweaked the topic in the segment because she wanted to get me on, and they wanted to have me on. So, I mean, I appreciate that, but it was not my exact wheelhouse. So I didn't have everything. Like you talk to me about my topic. Let's go, right? I can go for 2 days. So it had to be tight, all these talking points, and does it need to be that tight and that scripted, or can it be? Because the host, there were 3 of them, right? And they were very conversational. We went long. So
Yeah.
I feel like that went good because my friend said they never go long.
Mhm.
So I felt good in that regard. But man, it was daunting as much work as she put me through. Is it
Yeah. When you're live, it does need to be tight because generally you only have a certain amount of time, right?
right?
Depending, like maybe 3 to 5 minutes, depending
Yeah.
on. And the other thing to think about too, so if you're live on a TV set and you are in the end of the hour, so say their news is from 6 to 7 and you're on at 6:50, your 4 minutes that you may have been allotted to could get cut because things go over and they're like their whole thing is to stick to time.
Yep.
And we've had clients too, they're like, oh, we only got 2 minutes. Well, because they were at the end or there was breaking news or something happened. So it is important to be tight and concise which is great though when you have 3 or 4 people and you're having a conversation. I always tell people if they ask you a question and you don't know it, figure out a way to kind of just turn it around. You don't want to say, well, I don't know that, answer, but you try and just kind of spin it to something that's close to that question, but then take it off take it off the rails and go to what you want to talk about for that point. There's times that I've been asked questions and I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about, so there's just kind of a way to get
So
around
you
that.
talk about bourbon. That's what I do.
Yeah, I mean, you just, I mean, now that once you become really comfortable and once you're on and you have a relationship with that anchor, sometimes you could just, you're at a point to where you'd be like, John, I haven't seen that story. I don't know what you're talking, and you can just kind of joke around. But, they shouldn't throw you a curveball. They
Yeah.
should stay on topic, but
Yeah.
sometimes they do. They're just like, oh, well, we just saw this they're like, oh, on Twitter, this just happened. I'm like, I haven't been on Twitter. I was prepping for this segment. I have no idea what you're talking about. But yeah, it is with live, you want to be prepped. You want to be keeping to your talking points, speaking in sound bites. You don't want to ramble. Something else that I've learned as anchoring is when you're being interviewed live and an anchor starts to kind of interject, you hear them say, yes, okay, right. They're interrupting you in a nice, polite way, meaning like, all right, it's time to wrap. So when you start hearing them say something, that's your cue to be like, all right, I should probably wrap. And then you do realize, like, oh, I was talking really long. So just a little insider tip.
So you mentioned, using simple pitches. Is email best? Can I message you on, and I say you as a reporter, like let's say
Mhm.
you're at Newsmax, you're at work. I mean, can I hit you up on Twitter? I mean, do I need to call? Do voicemails work? All the above?
Yeah, so you certainly can do a message on Twitter. A lot of times the reporters don't have the message capability, like they don't have that message option available. Like they purposely turn it off because there's a lot of wackos who will message them. And if you can message them, they probably will say, "Hey, here's my email." So they prefer email. They don't like to be called. They just, unless you have a relationship with them. And the best thing, once you have that relationship, then you can text them. They love text, but you have to have that relationship. You can't just randomly be like, "Oh, hey, this is Kevin. I'm texting you because I have a story idea." That's kind of built in as you build that relationship. But email's the best, and follow up. 2 times, 3 times, because what happens is they get hundreds of emails a day. They may see it and flag it and then forget. So it's perfectly okay to follow up, 2 times, I would say. If you don't hear back from them after 2 times, I would let it go, pitch a different story.
And should I look for a trend, like this one guy is, you know, likes a sports angle, or he's in boys and Boy Scouts see it as a side, so maybe it's a family oriented, or can we just go crazy and just throw you anything and with an enticing topic and you'll pick up on it?
Yeah, as long as it makes sense for that media outlet. So you want to, when you're pitching your story or your topic, you want to make sure that it's going to the right media outlet. So I'm not going to pitch a story about, I don't know, like kids in school or something to a business outlet or to MSNBC unless it has a business component to it. So you want to make sure that that's going to the right media outlet. A lot of local news, a lot of local markets have like a business magazine, so that's a good way to to pitch, like if you're opening a new business or you're expanding or you're promoting or you just hired a new CEO or something like that. But you just want to make sure that your pitch goes to that right audience, like the right media outlet. Because a lot of times, like Newsmax, we'll get pitches about cooking segments. Well, we don't have a kitchen. We've never done a cooking segment.
Yeah.
So we just know, I'm like, okay, you don't even, a lot of times they just BCC. So I'm like, okay, you don't even know who you're pitching to. So that's kind of frustrating too. So you really want to do your research and make sure
Yeah.
that it's the right fit for that media outlet. But if you have a local journalist who like, on the side, just by seeing them on social media that they coach baseball, and you have like this big baseball fundraiser or something going on, or there's this really good story about this, family in the baseball team who just, lost their home in a fire or something, reach out to that journalist because they obviously have that connection and tie to baseball or little league. So you can kind of see too through their, if you've got a veteran, right? If any of these reporters are still or if they're a veteran or they're doing something to do with military, or if they've got family, send them those military. If you're having anything to do with any military stories or law enforcement, those are the people you want to send to because they obviously care about that.
And like if I have 5 reporters, at one station, do I just pitch them all and just see if one of them bites?
For local TV, you want to reach out to the assignment editor, and that they're like the gatekeeper. Unless you know a reporter, like if you personally know that reporter or that news anchor, or you've done a story with them, the second you do a story with that reporter, that's awesome because now you have that relationship. But if you are like just trying to get in the door, you can go on their website. Usually it will say contact us. Just call them and say, hey, who are your assignment editors I can send my press releases to? Typically there's 2 assignment editors a day. There's a day side one. They work like a 7 to 3 shift. And then there's a night side one, and they work the 3 to 11. So they're in charge of like those later shows and like the evening show. And they'll give them to you because they want to get all the stories. So those are going to be the people you want to reach out to. And then what they do is they have their meeting and they're like, hey, we got this. This is a good idea. And then they'll send a reporter out on it. Sometimes though, news stations have beat reporters, like they may have a health reporter or a parenting or something like that. That way you can certainly send to them because that's their beat. But if it's just a general story, just send out to the assignment desk, and then you can build the relationship once the reporter comes to do the story. Because they
So am I,
like send us stories. They're constantly, because the reporters have to go and pitch stories, like because they have their morning meeting or their afternoon meeting, and they're always looking for ideas. So if the reporter can say, well, I just got this story idea, it's this local guy who's doing something for homeless people, that makes the reporter look good because then they're like, okay, yeah, you could do that story.
so I've been remiss in not staying in touch with KTLA for the last 18 months, huh?
Yeah, you got to reach back out to them.
Would I reach out to the assignment editor? I mean, like I said, there were 3 hosts, anchors. I don't know, what would you call them when they're at the desk?
Yeah,
Hosts,
they're
anchors?
anchors. I would reach out to all 3 of them on the same email. Hey, Bob, Susie, Bill, hope you're doing well. I was on your show back in December. Love to come back on. Here's a story idea or 2. Let me
Hmm.
know, if we can make this work. So yeah, I
Yeah.
would just copy all of them on it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool beans. So your book is coming out, right?
It is.
Is it ready
Yes.
now? Almost. It's
So it's
pre-order, right?
pre-sale started, and then
Yep.
it released on October 12th. So it'll come out October 12th. Yeah, pretty
So
crazy.
was that painful? I hear I've
Um,
self-published. I've heard it's just hard writing books.
so I was going to self-publish, and then I did a hybrid publishing, which is better than self-publishing, but you don't have to go through this whole process to get a publisher. So in-house they had a cover designer, they had an editor, they have a formatter, they get it up on Amazon for you, they put your ebook together, they do all of that stuff because self-publishing is so hard if you haven't done it. I mean, it's hard enough to write the book. And so thank God for them. They've really helped me through the process, and I would use them again for my next book. I think the hard part isn't the writing, it's the marketing of the book. That's
Hmm.
the hard part. And even if you have a publisher, publishers don't typically help you with the marketing. And so it's easy to market other people, but it's really hard to market yourself. I still
Mhm.
haven't written a press release for my book because I'm like, I just can't do it. Like I can't, I can, but it's very, very weird. And it's all the back end of the marketing, which you're a pro at, but I'm like trying to create landing pages. I'm doing this, oh my gosh, it's really, really difficult. It's
Yeah.
not my wheelhouse and you have to do it. And this is probably the most stressful part.
Yeah. Amen. Well, good. Send me their info because I've got a couple of things I'm working on. And I'm not patient enough to go through a true publisher and 18 months later, 2 years later, and they chop all my stuff up. Like, oh my gosh.
And so I started with them in January and it's coming out. So it
Did
was
you have it
pretty
did you have it written already or just the idea?
the idea. I started writing it and then I finished it. I think I finished it in February or maybe the beginning of March. It was fast, but so it was, and it would have been out earlier. It was just held up on me because they sent me edits and then I like didn't want to read it because I was like so tired of like writing it and looking at it. So it would have been out sooner. They're awesome. They're
Yeah.
amazing and they are a great source and they've made it so much easier. And they have advice, right? Because this is their job. So I say, well, should
Right.
I do this? No, don't do that, but do this. So it's great. Yeah. It's much
Nice.
easier to go through that. And yeah, if you work with a publisher, you got to do the book proposal and you got to do all that. And then you have to wait. And yeah.
Well, but you are very good and consistent in just promoting yourself. I see your tips, your videos on LinkedIn, on Instagram. Are you batching those? Like, are you doing 5 or 10 at a time and saving them? Or
That's what you should do. That's what I tell people to do. I've done that. I have done that, and it's great. So I would specifically film 5 or 6 tips and then just have them done and then put them out. And I kind of stopped with this whole book thing and going to Newsmax. I stopped. And so I have to get back on that. But that's the best thing because to have to think every day, you got to do a video, you have to put, and then you got to edit it a little and you got to write the content and all. It's a lot of work.
yeah,
But these tips were the reason why I wrote my book because I pretty much took all of these plus more and put it into one book to help people learn how to do PR themselves. And then I have a bunch of experts in there from like, journalists to publicists to business owners. But putting content out and giving people advice is the best thing I think you can do to market yourself because you're not saying, use my service, buy from me, work with me. It's all about here's how you can do it. Like I want to give people the tools and tips. And then if they want to work with us, great. But I'm not a salesperson. I'd rather just give as much knowledge as I can because that's how I mean, it's the Gary Vee method, right? I mean, I remember years ago watching, and he's all about just giving content and giving as much as you can. And I think that really works because that's how I get half my stuff. I'll go and I'll follow this person or, Amy Porterfield or certain people and to learn how to do things. And I can pull many of their videos and figure things out for myself.
yeah. All right. How do I ask this question? Do you think is it because you're a woman and or in your space, like you're always put together, right? I am never put together. I'm t-shirt, unshaven. I'll just make a video. Hey, don't be an asshole when you're selling. Here's a tip. I mean, there's no full length video. I'm not standing with great lighting. I mean, is that just your style
It's
because
just my style.
it's your industry? Like,
It's
can
my
you?
style. It's just because of like that's just TV. But I don't think you should do something that's not you. You shouldn't put on a suit and stand in front of bookcases and do something because you think that's what you should do. I think the thing with videos, it's all about being real and authentic. I tell the story. I spent all this money on these videos to do video blogs years ago, and it was like this professional team. We did it in front of a green screen and all this stuff and I got like nothing. Like I put it on LinkedIn. I'm like, what? I don't understand. And then I started doing them in my car. And I cut down the minute and a half video to a 15-second video. And the response was completely different because it was me. So I do have better lighting now, but it's quick, it's to the point. I'll show bloopers on Instagram stories. Because I want people to realize like it took me 10 takes to say one word. So I try and be as real as I can. And I think that's what people like. And so we always say, and actually, John Bachman, who I quoted in my book, because we talk about like being guests on TV, and he's like, look, if you don't wear a suit, I don't want you coming on set with a suit. Like, I want you to be who you are. And I think that's because if you're someone else, then you don't come across as authentic. So you just to do your videos the way that you always do them, because that's who you are.
And video is king now, isn't it?
It is. It's for every platform. It is. And for Instagram, Reels are really, really big. And I've tried doing Reels. It's just not me. And I know that they do well, but I'm so uncomfortable doing them. And I'm like, I just can't do them. Why am I gonna try and be someone I'm not? And like, I just feel goofy in them. But if Reels are people's wheelhouse, then do it. But I think you got to stick with what you're comfortable with. But video is like key. So for some people, if they don't feel comfortable talking on video, then the Reels may be it, because you can just like have music and point to graphics and text and all that stuff.
Oh,
It's like TikTok, but yeah, the video it is important, but it's short. It's got to be short, because people, they lose their attention quickly. A squirrel? What?
so what is your website? You've got a website for the book, right?
Yeah, website for the book is breakinginthenews.com, and my business website's AlisonMayPR.com.
Very nice. So everyone should get the book. Who should call you though? Do you have like a niche or a certain company size?
I have a niche. No, I mean, we've got finance people, we have architects, we have the cybersecurity, we have we have beauty and so we're across the board. We don't really have a niche. I just think I think if we had a niche, I'd get bored with it. I'd get bored about talking about the same thing over and over again. So I like that we can be, talking about engineering and then talking about, what's happening in the markets, so it's fun.
Do you have beautiful sales whisperers? Is that a niche? Or beauty and sales would be different?
Beauty and sales. I mean, I love
sales
beauty. Yeah, there you go. Beauty products are great though. That's fun to pitch. But
Hey, I am all natural. All this color you see is from elbows and knees and jujitsu. All right.
there you go.
I don't even hide it. Like an elbow to the nose. Oh, it hurts. Gotta love it. Very nice. So your episode, everybody, they'll know as they hear this, but this will be episode 530, and it's coming out just in time for your book. So we will get the word out. And when you come to the West Coast, you promised me like a year ago you'd come see me. So I hope,
I know.
the worldwide book launch.
It's on my bucket list for sure.
Very nice. Alison Maloni, breaking in the news. Thanks for coming on the show. It's been great.
Thank you for having me.
Have a great day.
You too.